So I bought myself a cold steel Norse Hawk. Why? Well, because I wanted a sort of Viking Saxon style axe, and my local gun shop had one of these in stock. I've got 3 of them actually, so I bought one. People tend to think that these axes like this are bearded, this sort of thing comes down here. It's not always the case. I mean, they were a tool as much as a weapon. A lot of people in those days simply couldn't afford a sword, so an axe is a lot more practical. You probably have one anyway, because let's face it, you're going to need to rely on fire and firewood, and you can do quite a lot processing big animals and chopping up people. This is going to be, I mean, everybody knows about these if you've ever seen any of the videos. It's held in with a little grub screw, held into place, the little grub screw there. This used to be, well, it used to be painted, but it doesn't look like it's black paint to me. That almost does look like it's got a load of forge scale on it. 2 things I really don't like. One is that little made in Taiwan thing, that's going to go. The other one is that hole really where that grub screw sits. Evidence of machining on top and bottom. And yeah, like a lot of people say, it's not actually that sharp as it comes out of the box that it doesn't come in either. Oh, on that sticker, that's horrible, that's going. What do you actually get? This is, I think, 1095, so it's fairly good quality steel, American hickory, decent bit of wood. Overall, we got 22 inches. And cutting edge of about 4.5 inches. I couldn't tell you the weight, I have to look that one up. It's not exactly heavy, but it's got enough weight, I would suggest, to go and start cutting wood. We could actually go outside and do that, but unfortunately it's chucking down and blowing a hoolie, so this is going to be largely indoor video. And it's going to be much more of a display piece. It's going to go with my shield that I've made and a helmet that I'm making that's, again, weather's put the kibosh on that. I live in a fairly large town on the south coast of southern England. Really, the use of an axe, no, haven't really got one. This is why it's going to be a bit more of a display piece. So, first stage, let's undo that grub screw with this little hex key. When it first arrived, actually, I thought it had actually fallen out. I wasn't very impressed. Then I had a proper look. So that's a little grub screw. Try not to lose that. That should then just come off there quite easily. A little bit of light persuasion. That just comes out. Some people I've seen on videos do actually round this edge off because it is quite sharp. I don't really see the point. Mark there where the little grub screw sits into the wood. This apparently has a very, very thick coating on it, which is coming off. Let's start modifying them. I'm going to use a blowtorch now to try and blacken it a bit. So that's definitely a bit more of a matte finish, so I don't know what coating is on there. Now let's give it a quick sharpen on the stone. You should use a specific one for this, but I haven't got one. So not only hopefully can we sharpen it a bit, but it will give us a bit more of a sort of rougher finish. I've gone over the whole thing. I actually rubbed the stone over all of it, and I think that's starting to look a little bit more worn now, and that's not quite as uniform a finish where it's been ground, hopefully. Some wear lines, wear marks rather. I think that's pretty much done for that. As you'll know if you've ever bought any, wood stain is getting really expensive, so I made some out of bits of oil paint and some white spirit, and that's the colour it's coming out, so a few coats of that. Let's change the colour every so often as well. Add a bit of darker material in there, let it dry. I think that's going to look quite pretty. That's the colour it's gone now, which I think is a great improvement. So a couple more things done to make it look, I think, that little bit better. Bench ground the cross off the top. You can still see a little faint stain, but I'll finish that in a minute. That gives it a much squarer look. Same with the end of the handle, and takes off the machine mark there. And I've just gone over the axe head with a bit of wire wool, just to give it that little bit of wear and tear. A slightly older look as well, take a bit of that uniformity off. final step is going to be covering up that little hole with some of this. I don't really think I'm going to be using it enough to warrant having that hole there, so I'm just going to fill that with a little bit of this. I'm not trying to sound husky and interesting, I'm actually not very well. So there we go. Plaster steel, something similar. That may need a little bit of sanding later, but we'll wait till that's dry and see how it looks. But I think filling that hole is going to be the final little touch. Right, the first test I'm going to try is against a large ham bone, and it's a fairly fresh bone as well. And then we'll try this. And I just want to see what the edge retention's like, so we'll try this tin of Lidl's finest spaghetti hoops. Didn't do as much damage as I thought. And there is nothing at all, no marks on that edge at all. So the final word, I think, is about how they would have been carried, and it would have been very much like that, with a belt. The idea of having a metal ring is a later reenactor's idea, so it would have been just like that, carried in your belt. Fairly comfortable as well, a bit iffy if you fall over though. And it will then live here in the corner of our lounge on display with the shield I made.